Yeah, your body really don't know. And this is a race when I failed me. I'm not coming.
Stealth in the night with the shadows sway. No words spoken, just the planes on display. Knocking out the power where danger lay. Hope's lit flame keeps the dark at bay. Boom in the silence, moves like a ghost. Choices we make, ripple coast to coast. Bridges built from ashes, no time to boast. Peace finds a way when it matters the most. They saw the storm but never the rain. The skies were quiet yet broke the chain. Tensions crumbled like a fortress in vain. The cost was steep but there's peace to gain. Boom in the silence, moves like a ghost. Choices we make, ripple coast to coast. Bridges built from ashes, no time to boast. Peace finds a way when it matters the most. A hand unseen rewrote the game. From chaos to calm, a shift untamed. Lines redrawn where fire once claimed. Now a new world emerges, unframed. Boom in the silence, moves like a ghost. Choices we make, ripple coast to coast. Bridges built from ashes, no time to boast. Peace finds a way when it matters the most. When it matters the most.
Marvin Divine. I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania. We're awaiting a Department of Defense press briefing, ostensibly about the battle damage assessment from the 3 nuclear sites in Iran that were struck by U.S. B-2 stealth Spirit bombers over the weekend, which drove the Iranians and the Israelis to the negotiating table or the ceasefire table. So that ostensibly will be Secretary of State Pete Hegseth and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Raising Cane, General Kane. So that's coming up here in just a few minutes at the top of the hour. It's scheduled, so we got about 9 minutes before that. But before we get to that, breaking news out of South Africa, where Cyril Ramaphosa has fired the Deputy Minister of Trade. That would be Andrew Whitfield. So will the DA suddenly fracture with the GNU? Once again, showing that the Democratic Alliance has absolutely zero influence in Ramaphosa's cabinet of clowns. Absolutely zero influence whatsoever. Wow. So that's big news. This comes sometime after the trip to the States. He fires him. Well, it's not to be unexpected. It is Ramaphosa's prerogative to hire who he wants for his cabinet. But the fact that he's firing deputy ministers from his coalition partners does not bode well for the government of national unity. This morning, well, I don't know if this is a press release they gave. Let me see. There was a press release from the party that came to the States, which included Corne Mulder, Poppenfuss, and Teo Niagara. I'm kind of caught off guard and surprised by this, a bit surprised by the whole thing. Where the heck are my glasses at? They're not here. I have to go. Oh, here we go. So they're claiming that the U.S. has made it very clear that they have 4 demands in order to improve relations. Now, they've not shared this publicly. It's not come from the Trump administration. It has not been shared by Carolyn Leavitt or by the State Department. But They're saying the conditions U.S. officials, and it didn't say who the officials were. They said it was people from the office of the president, or the vice president, and the National Security Council and Homeland Security say the classification of farm attacks as a priority crime. So they also want a clear and unequivocal public condemnation by the ANC of Kill the Boer. And there'll be no land expropriation without market compensation and exemption of U.S. entities from BEE. All of that's necessary in order to improve trade relations. Otherwise, South Africa will be facing a 31%, have convened an urgent meeting of the DA's federal council following actions of President Ramaphosa. There you go. Here it comes. Is the GNU fracturing now? Will it fall apart today? We shall see. Was it warranted to sack Pete Hegseth? Thank you, Ronaldo, for joining us here this morning and sharing that information. Yeah, lots breaking at this hour. This delegation of folks that came to the States are reporting things that no other party has reported. The delegation, of course, consisted of Dr. Corne Mulder, the leader of the Freedom Front Plus, Dr. Theo de Jager, Chief Executive of the National Association, of South African Agri Initiative, and then the Chief Executive of the National Employers Association of South Africa, Gerard Poppenfuss. Yeah, they say they have a clear understanding of the administration expectations. Well, I didn't need this other than confirmation. This is what I've said all along. The farm attacks must be listed as a priority, and they have to distance themselves from Kill the Boer, and no expropriation, and the BE exemption. I've said that all along. Also, quit undermining U.S. interests. That's what this all started with. Arctic says, oh, please, this thing has been one move away from falling apart since day one. True. That's not what I said. I said, will this be the day that it falls apart? That's the question I raised. Didn't make a statement that it will fall apart. Said, will it be the day? But yeah, not going to happen. Yeah, I think you're right, because John Steenhuisen doesn't want to give up his agricultural minister job. And so it's not going to happen. And the DA is walking down. Where are you getting this from, Ronaldo? Is it listed on their DA website? DA.org.za. Rescuing. Read the latest in the GNU. Okay. Our achievements. Okay, well, they've got lots of things here they claim are achievements. I don't think anybody knows about these achievements. They say they're achievements, but I don't think anybody knows about it. Durko's system is offline. There's nothing here. It must be from their X account. So let me go to X and go to the DA there. DA gets things done. Do they now? Okay. It's Our DA, and it's Our DA, I think, is their website. Oh, come on. What is their damn Twitter? There it is. At Our DA. That's what it is. Why didn't it come up? Okay. Right. You must have some inside link because there's nothing here. There's nothing here from the DA on their website or on their Twitter account. So we'll see. Yeah, well, those four conditions are conditions I've said they're likely needed all along before they move the needle. And so the only difference here is they're claiming that this was issued to them by the U.S. government, but there's no been statement from the U.S. government. Oh, no, I got you, Arctic. I got you. Yeah, I know. I got you. Yeah, they're throwing a temper tantrum. Well, they should throw a temper tantrum. There's no reason to fire Andrew Whitfield. I mean, you came here ostensibly to talk about trade. Why would you bring Parks Tao but not Andrew Whitfield? Parks Tao has no idea what he's doing. At least Andrew Whitfield can walk and chew gum. You know, it doesn't make any sense why they didn't bring him. But good morning, folks. Welcome to everybody that's here. We are now waiting for this. There's a super chat from Raymond. Thank you for that. Need to make sure that the alerts are off. We don't want to be disturbed while we're listening to the press briefing. That would be kind of distracting, wouldn't it? So do you guys like the new news intro? Any question? Anybody comment on that? Haven't heard anything. Also the song The Right Move about the airstrike that took place. Excuse me. All right, so where the heck is this now? Find us there. Yeah, alert boxes turn off. Good. All right, so this event is supposed to be Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff General Kane coming up. Yeah, so as long as it expedites for FD. Well, if they don't meet any of these conditions, then the sanctions or the tariffs, not sanctions, but the tariffs are coming. 31%, folks, just 2 weeks away now. 14 days. It's the 9th. Let me see if it's 14 days. Let me check the calendar and do it because I want to do a 2-week countdown to when it is. So it is on the 9th. And that was, it's 2 weeks ago yesterday. So 14 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's 2 weeks, 14 days. So I have to make a video on that later today and say we're 2 weeks out and still nothing from the South African government. Still nothing from the South African government. Unbelievable. Qatar is behind the ANC not funding Iran. What? The ANC can't fund Iran. The other way around. No, the conditions won't be met. It's a pipe dream. So nothing's going to improve, and South Africa's economy. That's what's coming, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's coming. Yeah, Gold, we've already talked about that. Andrew Whitfield was fired. Yep. Oops. Yep. Sorry, sending a message to a senior person in the DA about that. Hey, Nina Ricci, are you related to Susan Ricci? I hope they're on time. The good news about U.S. government briefings is, unless there's an event happening, they tend to be on time. So we'll see. Andre Mostart agrees 100% with me. Yeah, no, these are rather simple conditions. The only one, they're demanding that U.S. institutions be exempt from BE. I think that's a very much a concession to the South African government, because BE is racist, and the U.S. government should stand for ending against everybody. One day, R1 million in the bank means you can buy one bread. Yep. Yeah, and pensioners will starve, just like they did in Zimbabwe. How come he didn't fire Steenhuisen? Because Steenhuisen is his guy. It's his boy. Steenhuisen is a part and parcel of the ANC government. He's deep in bed. I mean, Steenhuisen reminds me of Martinus von Skalkvik. We might as well merge the DA under this guy. Yep, Belinda, that's my answer on that. Heard some sanctions on oil has been lifted for Iran. Really? Let me check on that. See if that's true. That happened in the last few minutes then. Iran's Supreme Leader makes his first public appearance. Everyone's been asking where the Ayatollah is. He's out and about. He finally showed up. I see nothing about sanctions being lifted against Iran. Supreme Leader strikes defiant tone in a video statement not after being heard or seen publicly in days. Public alarm had been raised over his absence, and then he finally popped out. Popped out like Puxatawny Bill, and it's 1 minute to go, so we should be getting started here any second now. Don't want to get a copyright claim for that music, so let me just tone that down for a second. Yeah. Anyway, where'd Ronaldo go? I never did find where Ronaldo found that statement, so he must be getting text messages because he was once upon a time a member of the DA, I guess, because that's not something that I'm getting publicly available. So, right. So Iran's Supreme Leader. Let's check out the Wall Street Journal. Trump considers naming next Fed. Now, there's nothing here, Iran, nothing here about that. And now all the media are admitting that the damage may have been far greater because they want to make sure they don't have too much egg on their face after this briefing. So they're preempted it by running stories saying that the damage was excessive, and they're also relying on the Israeli battle damage assessment. No party can save the country. Only monarchism can, Pablo Charlie says. You and Roman Kabanak should hang out. You're drinking the same Kool-Aid. I think I'm the only South Africa covering journalist who does this on a regular basis who hasn't interviewed Roman Kabanak since he came back. What is Peagsel? What is that? Peelsley. Oh, thank you, Ronaldo. Okay. Okay. But what is that from? Is that a Helen Zilla? But why is that not on their newsroom? Why is it not on the DA's website? There's nothing on their website. They don't update their media. It's really, really lame. Well, look at this. We're now on Cyril time as the Pentagon keeps us waiting. I don't know. Gemini says Freedom Front Plus, my kind of party. Oh, Netverk 24. Well, why is it not? Okay, let me see if it's on News 24. I haven't gone to News 24. Let's see if it showed up there. He's going to reshuffle his cabinet, drops a DA deputy minister. So they're claiming that it's tied to the education minister, but terminated. Well, we'll see what happens going forward. It could be Friends and Family Only Friday coming up tomorrow, folks. Wow. Wow. All right, so yeah, create more jobs. Oh, here we go.
Well, good morning, everybody. Just arrived last night back from NATO, 2 days apart from my battle buddy, so it's good to see him this morning. Good to see you, Mr. Chairman. You too, sir. Where there was a historic outcome. I want to start with that real quick. I think there's so much news, so many things happening that oftentimes big, momentous moments get missed. What President Trump accomplished in NATO yesterday was game-changing and historic. A shift in burden sharing to European responsibility in NATO that most would have said was impossible at the beginning of his term. But he said NATO needs to pay up. They started in the first term, and here in his second term, we've accelerated that. 32 NATO countries committed to spending 5% of their GDP on defense.
Not going to happen.
Actually investing in the NATO alliance.
It's not going to happen.
So I hope with all the ink spilled,
they promised 2%
all
14
of your
years ago.
outlets find the time to properly recognize this historic change in continental security.
It's an empty promise.
That other presidents tried to do, other presidents talked about. President Trump accomplished it. It's a huge deal.
No, it won't be
We're here
fulfilled.
this morning because in hunting for scandals all the time, in trying to find wedges and spin stories,
He's enjoying
this
this.
press corps and the press corps miss historic moments. You miss historic moments like 5% at NATO, which when you hear, I was in the closed door briefing, I wish there could have been cameras in there. When you heard the prime ministers and presidents of other countries, to a man and to a woman, looking at President Trump and saying, this never could have happened. Never would have happened. It seemed impossible 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 8 years ago.
Trump
But
bombed
here we are
Iran.
because of your leadership.
And NATO fell in
If you
line.
asked them the question, I bet they'd say the same thing. But searching for scandals, you miss historic moments, like recruiting at the Pentagon.
Historic
levels in
record
the
levels of
Army,
recruiting.
The Air Force and the Navy. Yeah, maybe there'll be a little mention here or there, but because it was under President Trump's leadership, because Americans are responding to him as commander-in-chief, the press corps doesn't want to write about it. Or bring us to the topic of the moment, the highly successful strikes in Iran. Let me read the bottom line here. President Trump directed the most complex and secretive military operation in history.
True.
And it was a resounding success, resulting in a ceasefire agreement and the end of the 12-day war. There's been a lot of discussion about what happened and what didn't happen. Step back for a second.
OPSEC was
Because
brilliant.
of decisive military action,
Deception was
President
brilliant.
Trump created the conditions to end the war,
Yep.
decimating, choose your word, obliterating, destroying.
Confidence.
Outlet has breathlessly reported on a preliminary assessment from DIA. I'm looking at it right now. Again, it was preliminary, a day and a half after the actual strike, when it admits itself in writing that it requires weeks to accumulate the necessary data to make such an assessment. It's preliminary. It points out that it's not been coordinated with the intelligence community at all. There's low confidence in this particular report. It says in the report there are gaps in the information. It says in the report multiple linchpin assumptions are what this assessment, a linchpin assumption, you know what that is? That means your entire premise is predicated
based on
a
that.
linchpin. If you're wrong, everything else is wrong. And yet, and still, this report acknowledges it's likely severe damage. Again, this is preliminary, but leaked because someone had an agenda to try to muddy the waters and make it look like this historic strike wasn't successful. I'm going to get to the chairman in a moment.
And why did
because he's
Iran
gonna
come
lay
to the
out
table
the
if it wasn't?
particulars
Why
for
did
you
Iran come to the table if it
based on
wasn't?
his professional military experience. But here's what other folks are saying. The DIA that put that report out says this is a preliminary low confidence report and will continue to be refined as additional intelligence becomes available. How about the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission? The devastating U.S. strikes on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. Have any of these quotes made their way into the New York Times or the Washington Post?
Nope.
MSNBC?
Nope.
CNN? Any
Nope.
of these quotes? How about this one? This is a new one from the UN, the United Nations. No friend of the United States, or certainly Israel often. Here's the head of the UN Atomic Energy Agency this morning, Rafael Grossi. U.S. and Israeli strikes caused enormous damage to Iran's nuclear sites. Don't take my word for it. How about the IDF's chief of staff? I can say here that the assessment is that we significantly damaged the nuclear program, setting it back by years. I repeat, years. The Iranian foreign minister, the spokesman, our nuclear installations have been badly damaged, that's for sure. I'm sure that's an understatement. John Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, putting out a statement just last night. CIA can confirm that a body of credible intelligence indicates Iran's nuclear program has been severely damaged by recent targeted strikes.
This is necessary.
This includes new intelligence from a historically reliable, very different than preliminary assessment with low confidence. He's saying historically reliable and accurate source and method that several key Iranian nuclear facilities were destroyed and would have to be rebuilt over the course of years. CIA continues to collect additional reliably sourced information to keep appropriate decision makers fully informed. How about DNI Tulsi Gabbard yesterday? She writes, and I quote, "New intelligence confirms what POTUS has stated numerous times. Iran's nuclear facilities have been destroyed." Institute for Science and International Security President David Albright, overall Israel and U.S. attacks have effectively destroyed Iran's centrifuge enrichment.
Not the New York Times, not the Washington Post.
And time again, I can go down the list. Those that understand, those that see, those that do proper assessments recognize that what the United States military did was historic. And again, before I pass it to the chairman, because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard.
Yep.
It's like in your DNA and in your blood,
history.
cheer against Trump.
This is awesome.
Because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful.
Yep, this is brilliant.
How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours?
Very few stories.
Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was.
What about the deception?
There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
It is. It's unconscionable.
And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon.
So kick them out and let me in.
Responsibility.
Kick them out and let me in.
Time and time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities?
Not those bitter betties.
I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated,
obliterated.
You want to call it obliterated. Choose your word. this was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years, and no other presidents had the courage to actually do.
Well, he's really
So with
on
that,
form.
I'm going to hand it over to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. They've done technical analysis on this, not just on the strike, but also on our Patriot defenders on Al Udeid. And Mr. Chairman,
The press corps looks like they've been
Thank
spanked.
you, Mr. Secretary, and good morning, and all of you. Thank you for being here. As a follow-up to my comments on Sunday's press conference, I wanted to give you a few updates this morning on something I'm honored to do as a chairman, and that's a chance to get to talk about some of our service members and the incredible things that they do on behalf of our nation. And I apologize ahead of time for the length and the
This is
detail.
going to be a while.
Today I'm going to brief you on a couple things. First, I'm going to talk about our air defenders at Al Udeid in Qatar and their actions on Monday. Then I'm going to walk you through a little bit about the academics that went into the attack against Fordo, the massive ordnance penetrator weapon, and we're going to show a video that highlights the effects that weapon has. Of course, nobody was down inside the target, so we don't have video from the target. First, on Monday. As the President has stated, on Monday morning we began to receive indications and warnings that Iran intended to attack U.S. bases in the region. That morning, building on the work that CENTCOM Commander Eric Kurilla had done, and on the orders of the President, at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and around the region, we assumed a minimum force posture. Most folks had moved off the base to extend the security perimeter out away from what we assessed might be a target zone, except for a very few Army soldiers at Al Udeid.
Who need to stay for
At
Patriots?
that point, only 2 Patriot batteries remained on base. Roughly 44 American soldiers responsible for defending the entire base, to include CENTCOM's forward headquarters in the Middle East, an entire air base, and all the U.S. forces there. The oldest soldier was a 28-year-old captain.
Wow.
The youngest was a 21-year-old private who'd been in the military for less than 2 years.
Wow.
So let's put ourselves out there for a second. Imagine you're that young first lieutenant, you're 25 or 26 years old, and you've been assigned as the tactical director inside the command and control element. You, at that age, are the sole person responsible to defend this base. Listening next to you is your early warning operator, whose job is to notify you of imminent attack. There's 5 people inside a vehicle and 5 people outside of a vehicle around these, a total of, as I said, 44. By the way, you've sat in the Middle East for years, deployed over and over again, extended multiple times, always being prepared, but unsure of when that particular day will come that you must execute your mission and not fail at doing it. In this case, these Patriot crews were deployed from Korea and Japan as part of our U.S. forces there to ensure that we had the most capable missiles in the CENTCOM area of responsibility. As the day continues, you start to hear more and more chatter in the information space about a pending attack. And as the sun starts to set in the west, you get orders from your higher headquarters to make sure that your missile batteries are pointed to the north. There are just a few other teammates. It's hot, you're getting nervous, and you expect an attack. Outside of those Patriot vehicles, your hot crew, which is 1 NCO and 4 additional soldiers, turns a key and relinquishes control of those missiles to that young lieutenant inside the vehicle. And you wait. You know that you're going to have approximately 2 minutes, 120 seconds to either succeed or fail. And then at approximately 12:30 p.m. on Monday, that's 7:30 p.m. in Qatar, as the sun sets in the west, Iran attacks. As the targets were detected, round after round of Patriot missiles are ejected from their canisters by an initial launch charge. Then the main solid rocket motor ignites, You can feel this in your body if you've ever been around a Patriot taking a shot. And round after round goes out and guides against those missiles coming inbound. We believe that this is the largest single Patriot engagement in U.S. military history.
Could be.
And we were joined in this engagement by the Qatari Patriot crews. I'm not going to tell you how many rounds were shot, but it was a bunch.
We saw it.
Because of classified purposes. And we're aware that there's reports of something getting through. What we do know is there was a lot of metal flying around. Between attacking missiles being hit by Patriots, boosters from attacking missiles being hit by Patriots, the Patriots themselves flying around, and the debris from those Patriots hitting the ground, there was a lot of metal flying around. And yet our U.S. air defenders had only seconds to make complex decisions with strategic impact. These awesome humans.
Roberto Wilco, no. How about a thought for the hostages and the rape victims being held by Hamas? No thoughts for Palestinians until we have thoughts for those people.
United States Army. And I know a lot of you have seen the videos online and the excitement as those Patriots departed their launchers and went up and guided. This really demonstrates the combat capability and capacity of our Army air defenders. Simply stated, they absolutely crushed it. If you'd flip this over, thanks. Let me next move to a walkthrough of the GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrator weapon. And share a little bit about the planners who did this and their work on the weapon. First, let me set the stage for you. There's an organization in the U.S. called the Defense Threat Reduction Agency.
DTRA. I've worked with them.
DTRA does a lot of things for our nation, but DTRA is the world's leading expert on deeply buried underground targets.
Indeed.
In 2009, a Defense Threat Reduction Agency officer was brought into a vault at an undisclosed location and briefed on something going on in Iran. For security purposes, I'm not going to share his name. He was shown some photos and some highly classified intelligence of what looked like a major construction project in the mountains of Iran. He was tasked to study this facility, work with the intelligence community to understand it, and he was soon joined by an additional teammate. For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordow, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose. They weren't able to discuss this with their family, their wives, their kids, their friends, but they just kept grinding.
Guys, as I said, does anybody honestly think that we didn't have eyes on this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the past frickin' 30 years, what's going on in Iran? We are watching what's going on there every waking moment. We know all these lies from the media who don't know their ass from the hole in the ground, that Tubalard Warish-looking little turd ball on the left-hand side of the screen there who ask moronic, dumbass questions. These people shouldn't be allowed in this room. These are not journalists. They're propagandists. This is an actual briefing of what we can disclose, unclassified. This is all stuff that I've known, but I can't share this stuff because, my goodness, folks, yeah, because people with big mouths would compromise it. This is the real story. This is the truth. And this is only the unclassified version that they declassified for you. It's much more in-depth than this. We obliterated them. That's the bottom line.
The United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target. Yesterday, I had the incredible honor and privilege of spending time with these two Defense Threat Reduction Agency officers who've given so much. One of them said, quote, "I can't even get my head around this. My heart is so filled with the pride of being a part of this team. I am so honored to be a part of this. To you both, thank you, and thank you to your families. Operation Midnight Hammer was the culmination of those 15 years of incredible work. The air crews, the tanker crews, the weapons crews that built the weapons, the load crews that loaded it. Before I run through this video today, I want to talk a little bit about weaponeering and what goes into an attack. Weaponeering is the science of evaluating a target. I mentioned all of those factors.
No, Roberto Wilco, you were selective in worrying about the Palestinians only. The people who were kidnapped, raped, tortured, butchered, and murdered were innocents too. If you want to recognize them and have a moment of thought for the murdered Israelis and people who were in Israel by Hamas, then we can have a moment and can think about the Palestinians as well. You can't have it one-sided.
And the weapons were designed, planned, and delivered to ensure that they achieve the effects in the mission space. By the way, in the beginning of its development, we had so many PhDs working on the MOP program, doing modeling and simulation, that we were quietly and in a secret way the biggest users of supercomputer hours within the United States of America. So let me talk about the graphic a little bit. And the GBU-57, which all of you I know is a 30,000 pound weapon, dropped only by the B-2. It's comprised of steel, explosive, and a fuse, programmed bespokely, each weapon to achieve a particular effect inside the target. Each weapon had a unique desired impact angle, arrival, final heading, and a fuse setting. The fuse is effectively what tells the bomb when to function. A longer delay in a fuse, the deeper the weapon will penetrate and drive into the target. So on Fordo, in June of 2008, you can see these three holes. Depicted here is the main exhaust shaft with 2 additional ventilation shafts on either side. The United States decided to strike these 2 ventilation shafts, seen here on the main graphic, as the primary point of entry into the mission space. In the days preceding the attack against Fordo, the Iranians attempted to cover the shafts with concrete to try to prevent an attack. I won't share the specific dimensions of the concrete cap, but you should know that we know what the dimensions of those concrete caps were. The planners had to account for this. They accounted for everything. The cap was forcibly removed by the first weapon, and the main shaft was uncovered. Weapons 2, 3, 4, 5 were tasked to enter the main shaft, move down into the complex at greater than 1,000 feet per second,
Woo!
And explode in the mission space.
Woo!
Weapon number 6 was designed on each side, so there were 6 on each side. Weapons number 6 was designed as a flex weapon to allow us to cover if one of the preceding jets or one of the preceding weapons did not work. The video I'm about to show you is a culmination of over 15 years of development and testing. As I said, hundreds of test shots on various models. This is one weapon. So if you take a view of this as 5 additionals, you'll get a sense of what
This isn't the actual attack. This is a test.
Hopefully you can see it and there's not too much reflection. Tom runs our videos out there. We'll run it at full speed so you can see it and then go back through it. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, damn. Blixen is right. Good Lord.
Keep it going for a minute. You'll see inside the mission space.
Wow.
Unlike a normal surface bomb, you won't see an impact crater because they're
Correct.
designed to deeply bury and then function. I know there's been a lot of questions about that. All 6 weapons at each vent at Fordo
Hit the
went
target.
exactly where they were intended to
Yep.
go. A bomb has 3 effects that causes damage: blast, fragmentation, and overpressure. In this case, the primary kill mechanism in the mission space was a mix of overpressure and blast ripping through the open tunnels and destroying critical hardware. The majority of the damage we assessed based on our extensive modeling was a blast layer
Overpressure.
combined with the impulse extending from the shock. Imagine what this looks like 6 times over. A point that I want to make here: the Joint Force does not do BDA. By design, we don't grade our own homework. The intelligence community does.
Correct.
But here's what we know following the attacks and the strikes on Fordo. First, that the weapons were built, tested, and loaded properly. 2, the weapons were released on speed and on parameters. 3, the weapons all guided to their intended targets and to their intended aim points. 4, the weapons functioned as designed, meaning they exploded. We know this through other means, intelligence means that we have, that were visibly, we were visibly able to see them. And we know that the trailing jets saw the first weapons function, and the pilots stated, quote, "This was the brightest explosion that I've ever seen. It literally looked like daylight." Let me now turn to the bomber crews themselves, give you a few details about them. The crews that attacked Fordo were from the active duty Air Force and the Missouri Air National Guard.
Oh, the Guard too.
Crews ranked from captain to colonel, and most were graduates of the Air Force Weapons School headquartered at Nellis Air Force Base in Nevada. I will state for the record that there is no beach volleyball or football at the Air Force Weapons School. There were male and female aviators on this mission. And a crew member told me when I talked to them on video the other day that this felt like the Super Bowl, the thousands of scientists, airmen, and maintainers all coming together. One last story about people. When the crews went to work on Friday, they kissed their loved ones goodbye,
Never knowing
not
if they're
knowing
coming home.
when or
Or
if
if.
they'd be home.
Yep.
Late on Saturday night, their families became aware of what was happening. And on Sunday, when those jets returned from Whiteman,